Hello everyone. I'm back after a long time, but this time this video will be about personal statement because I have been planning to make this video for a long time and today's the perfect day to make this video. So without doing any delay, let's just begin with the video. While writing personal statement, I think it's very confusing when you start writing because for me, I didn't know from where to start, what to write, how to begin with it. Some people say it's better to write some quote that would be something that draws your attention while starting to write statement of purpose. I personally was not okay with that because there's no such quote that I absolutely believed and followed and implemented in my life and my life changed. So I wanted to be very authentic while writing my personal statement. At the same time, I didn't want it to be boring because everyone mentions one thing. It has to be like a storytelling. It has to be like it's your life, your story, but then not in a typical storytelling way, but it's like it's a character introduction, maybe, let's just imagine, but in a very professional way that sticks to the educational background, motivation, achievements, like the points they have mentioned. So before talking about how to write it, let's just discuss what are the points they want us to include in personal statement. Points they mentioned are motivations, like you're applying to GK's program. What are your motivations? You have to ask this question to yourself. For me, I had some motivations. For you, it could be different. So ask yourself and don't start writing like you're making the final one, you're making the final copy, but try to write down some memos, try to write down some points. Take a major that you're applying to, and the way Korea has been working on that major, the way they have all the advanced technology, or maybe it could be something else, it could be the research work, it could be the job opportunity, it could be the education, whatever it is, you can highlight. It can be any incident right now that Korea made a great progress in that field, so you can just bring those topics as your motivation. You can just talk about the things that really motivated you for the program, but be professional, of course. So the first point was motivations. The second point was educational background. So for educational background, as you can understand that if you're applying for masters, then it's definitely about your bachelor's, and maybe you can go for high school, but I didn't mention that. It has to be very specific, to the point, and mention it only if it's needed. Maybe if you're highlighting your high school for no reason, it's not that important. If there is something that is something worth mentioning, I think you should mention it. Coming to the third point, significant experiences. Fourth point was person or events that had a significant influence on you. Then average publication skills, and the last point is others, where you can include extracurricular activities, community service, work experience, etc. Now for the last 4 points, like I mentioned, these are your key, because this is where you can portray yourself. You can talk about your extracurricular activities, you can talk about your hours, you can talk about your research work, the work experience, the certificates, whatever you have occurred, whatever maybe your topic, TOEFL, whatever you have, like you can talk about it. So these spaces are very important, and that varies so much from people to people, because for the educational background you might have the same percentage as some other applicants, but for the last 4 points, like the significant influence and experiences, awards, publication, work experience, that varies a lot. That's like you have completely different than someone else. I have completely different from all the other candidates. So um, these are the places I think you can actually express yourself. You can talk about your interest, you can talk about the facts that made you the person you are today. So for personal statement, definitely it has to be something personal. It's not like all about your professional life, but you as a person. So we got to discuss everything, but in a professional way. The points they have mentioned, like you have to talk about, like I said, like motivation, educational background, etc., etc. For those, you don't have to do it the way they have pointed out, like firstly motivation, then educational background, then significant experiences. You don't have to do it like that. You can be free. You have to talk about all of those, but not necessarily the way they have mentioned. You can talk about your educational background first, then you can talk about significant experiences, then you can talk about extracurricular. It's your way, it's your personal statement, so you decide how it will be written. So yeah, the question I usually get asked a lot: how long did it take for you to write your personal statement? Honestly, I have been preparing for GKs from 2021, and you ask me how long did it take? It took me years. It literally took me years, because in 2022 I had different personal statement. Then I prepared for 2023, where I couldn't apply for the program. Like I mentioned, I didn't have my graduation certificate, so I had different personal statement. And for like 2024, I had a different one. And is it like totally different? No, it's not totally different. It's like updated one. I did better every year, I improved it. And so yeah, what I'm gonna share with you today is basically a result of 3 years, or maybe like 2.5 years. Yeah, so 잘들어보세요. Let's begin with how I wrote the stuffs. I started with the point significant influence. For me, it was the movie Parasite. After watching it, I actually realized how beautifully a movie can be portrayed, how beautifully it can be written. For me, it was the significant influence that, not necessarily that was the reason behind why I chose film, but it was definitely that made me fall in love with movies, film, and more curious about this major. So at first, in my first paragraph, I basically talked about all of those, how Parasite influenced me, how it had an impact on me. But in the next paragraph, I talked about my educational background. So while writing down, you need to remember one more thing. While you're writing, your previous paragraph must have some link to the next paragraph. It can't be like you're talking about your major and in the next paragraph you're talking about something completely different. It can't be like that. So make sure you follow that things. In that way, it would be a bit natural to read it like a story. It will be easy for a person to understand you, and it will harmonize well. So make sure you do that. You just do not write something in the first paragraph and in the next you just write about completely different. My bachelor degree was in geography, and film was my additional subject. So the person who is reading my story, or maybe reading my personal statement, that person might think, okay, so this girl was doing her bachelor's in geography and all of a sudden she just changed her mind and went for film. What's the reason? So I, in very short, tried to explain why I actually chose geography, for which I basically mentioned that from my early school days, I desired to know more about the society and find an explanation for social and environmental issues. So I have always been concerned about that, and I think when it comes to social and environmental issues, geography is a subject that basically gives you most of the answers. So I kind of fell in love with the subject, and I also love to know more about different cultures and people around the world. So basically that motivated me to take the subject geography. By these two lines, I kind of made sure that they know about my personality. Like, I'm pretty curious, I'm interested in different cultures, I'm interested in social and environmental issues, and of course how to solve those issues. So I basically gave them an idea how my mind works, but in a very short way. That kind of gave them a reason to understand, okay, so this is the reason she chose geography in her bachelor's. After that, I talked about the works I did in my subject. Since I was changing my major, I didn't have to go in much detail, but then at the same time I had to write something about my educational background. I basically mentioned the projects I have done during my bachelor's, and after that I changed the topic to film, because film was my additional subject. One of those was making a documentary, and it was about uh, highlighting our local culture. And if you see, I mentioned that how it encouraged local people to know more about our culture. And also I mentioned that we didn't provide with the best technical skills or anything, but then our initiative was praised by our advisor, and our the way we presented the short film, um, we were able to put effort into the preservation of our local culture and history. So it kind of shows we actually do want to know about culture, and most importantly it shows how I'm interested in showing, portraying culture. So basically I talked about my personality, my interest. At the same time I talked about my educational background. So this kind of gave them the idea, okay, so this is how it is going, this is how the story is going on. And after that, in the next paragraph, I gave them the reason why I changed the subject, why I didn't apply for masters in geography, but I applied for masters in film. So if you go through the paragraph well, you can understand that there is a line that says, geography helped me to observe the earth and environment and understand human and their socio-cultural relations. I realized as a subject, geography is the best for gaining knowledge, but for expressing my creativity and having a social impact on the mass population in a positive and artistic way, there is no media as good as video contents. Filmmaking eventually connects me with my other fields of interest, from music, art, history. So I mentioned all of this, and the more you read the personal statement, you will get a little bit of hint, like I'm interested in art as well and music. So, and not just interested, I basically have experience. So I just cannot say I have experience, but I have to put some certificate to say, yeah, I do have experience, look at this, and believe it. So yeah, I talked about all those stuffs. I think this is also very important. Like, you talk about stuff, but you also give them proofs, and this is how they also get to know you. And at the same time, you showcase whatever awards, whatever achievements you do have, not making it look like bragging or something, but you are talking about yourself, you are talking about your journey, and they're listening to it. So after that, I mentioned all the extracurricular activities, like I learned music, like Indian classical music, then fine arts. Then after that, I also learned karate for almost 7 to 8 years, and I mentioned all those stuffs and all the achievements, little by little. So yeah, and also I mentioned how I started my Korean language journey during 2022. So it just gave them an idea, okay, so from 2022 she has been learning the language, so it's like she's applying on 2024, so by this time probably she knows the language to some extent. And yeah, just an idea, just to show them that you are consistent, you are not giving up on stuff, you are improving yourself every year. It's not like you are saying it, but you are proving it by your works, you're showing it by the certificates, by the achievements, by the little milestones you have achieved in your life. So I think if you portray it in this way, it would be nice to read. Then coming to the next topic, after extracurricular, I talked about the one of the most important question, which is why GKS. So it's basically answering the point motivation. So what motivated you for GKS? You must have a reason, right? Why did you choose this scholarship? Maybe it's because, like, if you ask a person to be in general, like, why GKS? They might answer, it's a fully funded scholarship. You basically get paid to study. You're basically studying in a foreign country, learning the culture. So isn't it enough motivation for applying to GKS? Well, you can't be this straightforward. Maybe you have to dig a little bit deeper. Why GKS? Why Korea? You gotta do your research based on the major you have taken. So for me, I talked about like the Korean media industry, because it's like growing super fast, improving when it comes to Korean drama, film, maybe it can be K-pop, MV making, and everything. Like, it's skyrocketing. So isn't it enough reason, like, why Korea out of all the countries? So I talked about those, but then in a more professional way, I think during COVID, I kind of started learning Hangul. For me, it was like I had prior knowledge, and then I started learning it seriously. Then got to know about GKS, and like all the stuffs were almost going hand to hand. So I was writing it, I just remembered, yeah, so basically I was already interested in Korean culture, learning the language, and initially it just aligned with it. Initially it just worked, like it just came into one way, and it worked like, you get your answer. Why Korea? It's because Korea has always been there. You are consuming Korean contents, you are learning the language, you are like the major you are trying to apply to, it's basically huge in this country. There is an amazing scholarship. So you get your answer, why Korea and why not other countries. So I kind of put it in words and explained it in this paragraph. Coming to the next point, which is why Dongso. So if you're applying to embassy track, I don't think this point is much needed for you, or rather, it's needed for you because you cannot talk about three of the universities you're applying to. It will be not so good impression. So just don't do that. But for me, I applied via university track, so I wanted it to be more personalized and more focused to the point. Like, why Dongso? Like, they should have the answer, like, why am I applying to this university out of all the university Korea has? So I talked about it a little bit. I basically talked about the amazing faculty they have, and for the faculty, and also the professors, their research work and everything. So these are the reasons why I chose Dongso University over any other university. And also with that, I mentioned that in 2022 I applied to the university, the same university, but then I was selected by the, did I mention it directly? Yeah, so basically I mentioned it like during the first round I was selected, but then I just couldn't pass the NID round. So here I'm again, I'm applying to the same university again after 2 years. Honestly, I was not sure if I should mention that or not, because it could be a little bit controversial. Like, you were already rejected by NID on 2022, so do you think it's good to mention that, like, you were rejected by NID and all? What if you get rejected this time as well? Why should we trust you and all? But at the same time, I wanted them to know, like, I want to get into this university only. So it was the same for 2022 me, and I improved myself. I basically improved my profile. Uh, I just did lots of stuffs, lots of experiences I have gained. So even after that, I want to get into the same university as well. Like, my mind always has those university. So you see, so this is the way to say them, like, I'm very much dedicated to get into your university. So please have a look, this kind of stuff. So yeah, I just tried I don't know if it was the best thing to do, but even I don't know if I were to apply again to GKs. I'm not sure if I will do that again. So it's pretty controversial, but I did it anyways. I just asked myself again and again, should I mention it? Should I not mention it? What to do? What to do? I asked so many people. Some people said, you should, and some people said, I don't think you should. But then at the end, I felt like let's just do it. But correct choice of words are also very important, so let's just do it. So I just did it anyways. Coming to the next point, where I mentioned the volunteer services, then work experiences. In my certificate videos, if you have seen that, you already know what certificates I had submitted. So basically, it had Seoul, about the works I did in Seoul, because it was a volunteer activities, but then it has the translation works, then all the topics we have covered and everything. I talked about the translation I did there to expand the relationship between India and Korea. I worked with one of the renowned reporters of the Times of India as an interpreter, and that was my first job as an interpreter. So I think that was really something I wanted to mention. And I also asked her to write a recommendation letter for me, like not a typical LOR, like the way you present the LOR, but it's just a normal, you can say, just a normal proof that shows that, yeah, I worked with the reporter. Because, like, I'm talking that, oh, I worked with Times of India, but it was not like a general hire or something. It was like a freelance work where you get paid and you do your job, but it's not like something you get any certificate or any other documents. So the reporter, she couldn't write it in the letterhead because it was like a freelance task. So she was kind enough to write a LOR for me, and she just mentioned that she is a reporter of Times of India, and she had given her contact number, and she did sign. And it was not like in an envelope, or it was not like in any different way. It was just like with the certificates, I just attached it. That's it, like an open piece of paper. So yeah, I just wanted to have proof of everything. Like, I'm not lying. Just go through my papers. I'm not taking any risk. Okay, just go through the papers. And yeah, she just mentioned her contact number and mail ID. If you have any doubt, just contact her. But then read my personal statement properly. So basically, in the next paragraph, I talked about 2023 when I joined King Sejong Institute, and I also talked about the fact that I couldn't apply 2023 GKS because of like not having the graduation certificate, since they had that requirement and all. So I just didn't want them to wonder like, why didn't she apply on 2023? So I just mentioned it in a short line. Coming to the next point, it's about significant experiences and awards. So in this particular paragraph, I talked about the speech contest I won in King Sejong Institute, because I believe that was one of my biggest achievements. So I talked about it like a little bit more than the other achievements, and I also tried to portray what I learned from it. After that, I also mentioned another speech contest that I won, that was from Soon University. So I mentioned that as well. After that, I highlighted that with our King Sejong Institute, they had one translation program. So I did translate one short story and a song. So I talked about that as well. Apart from this, I did learn Korean calligraphy. I just mentioned that. As I mentioned that my major is film, I was very comfortable to talk about the K Influencer program and honorary reporter programs I have attended. Well, for other majors, I'm not so sure about it, because those are some media based program, but at the same time, if you have some achievements, if you have reached some goal, or maybe if you have anything particular to share about those programs, you can. But for me, since my major is film, I think I was very much enthusiastic to talk about all those stuffs, because it's basically about making videos, it's writing articles, and this is what you do in media. So I talked about those, even though I didn't have some achievements or anything. I just mentioned that I attended those. And I also talked about the FTII program, so the Film and Television Institute of India, and they provide with some short courses on film, and those are really amazing. Like, if you're interested in film, you should join. And I talked about those, that I took classes from them and I learned from them. And I also mentioned what are the things I learned, because since my major was not film, I'm changing the major. I had to make sure they can feel that I'm enthusiastic about this major. I want to know more about this major. It's not like I'm just applying, I'm just bored and I'm changing my major. It's not like that. I just wanted them to know, like, I'm interested, I'm passionate about this subject, and I'm constantly learning about this subject. So I highlighted that as well. Coming to the ending part of the personal statement, I also mentioned the film department of Dongsu University can provide me with the global learning experience and opportunity to communicate and collaborate with people from diverse background. All this stuff, like what I will get from them, why, like again, why it's them, why this university, why this program, like just to ending it with a sweet note. So this was it. This was like my whole SOP. And I think it's very important, while you are writing this SOP, the first thing that is very important to ask the question to yourself, like the questions like, why GKS? Then why this university? Why not other university? Just because it's popular, that probably won't be making sense. You have to go through the curriculum, you have to find the answers yourself, you have to do research. So do it right away and write down what are the points you are liking about this. And once you start doing this, once you start pointing out, these are the facts that I'm liking about this university, I think I'm gonna apply to this university via university track. So I think be more personalized, be like more like talking about those topics, like why it's this university, like why out of all this university, why it's you. So talk about the stuff and try to figure out all this website, like maybe if they have any some program going on regarding your majors, maybe some maybe for film, like if they're organizing some film festival, then look for it, like what is the name of that film festival, what you can gain from those film festivals. Talk about it, like if you see yourself in that film festival in future, if you want to be a part of this film festival and improve your portfolio and just be a part of it. So talk about those, like talk about how enthusiastic you are about that university, about that major, and do your research, like go through the websites again and again until everything is like so memorized to yourself, like I know almost everything, whatever is mentioned in the profile. Do your research to the fullest and try to come up with your story. Try to use simple words, simple sentence construction, because once you make it complicated, it's hard for the person to understand. Since English is not their first language, making a very complicated personal statement and writing make the reader a bit uncomfortable. So go for the easy but sophisticated words, and start with making memos, start with pointing out, okay, so for me motivations will be this, and for me educational backgrounds will cover this. And once you're done with this, try to write it in sentences. And once you start writing it in sentences, you will slowly get it. Okay, so I think it would be nice if I put this part during the beginning because it sounds very interesting and catchy, and after that if I go with this because these two are related, and this is how I can build my story. So you can basically plan it over. So yeah, you cannot get your perfect personal statement in a day or in 2 days, and honestly there is not a time span I can talk about, like you can write your personal statement in 7 days. I cannot say like that because it might differ person to person, and it can probably never be perfect. Like if I have to write this same thing again, probably I will read it over and over again. I will still make some changes, but the ultimate part is to keep on correcting it. Show it to people whom you believe that they're gonna give you the honest review. Show it to your friends and ask them what they think about it. If maybe they can point out something that you are not getting, you are not finding that thing. So yeah, try to show it to your friends, try to show it to your family. Ask them like if there's something else you should talk about, or maybe what things you are talking about, maybe you are not being professional or something, like whatever flaws it might have, like talk about those and try to correct it. Do it again and again and make the best personal statement for yourself. So yeah, that's it for today. If the video was a little bit helpful for you, it would be nice if you can like and subscribe to my channel, because for you it's just clicking two buttons, but for me it's an achievement. So yeah, do it right away. And that's it for today. See you in the next video. Bye.